Chapter 9. By his dress, Ezra Wolf would have been Amish. White shirt, dark pants, suspenders, and hat. He was about 5'10", with a slim build but thick arms. He had short, ginger-colored hair, blue eyes, and facial hair that did include a mustache. Wolf had walked through the door with a young man in his 20s with the same coloring, red hair, and blue eyes, but who was taller and thicker across the chest. He wore modern clothing, denim jeans, and a maroon long-sleeve t-shirt. The duo's feet were shod in socks, probably leaving their boots in the mudroom. Silently, Wolf and the young man sat down at the dining room table. Decker introduced himself and then Rena. Thank you for agreeing to meet me. Ezra Wolf nodded, but remained silent. The young man took over. Jacob Wolf. He stuck out his hand, first to Decker, then to Rena. I'm Eli's older brother. We're 2 years apart. I'm very sorry for your loss, Decker said. Thank you. Grace, Ezra announced. After a short invocation, the two men began cutting up their chops. Jacob said, I know you want to ask questions. It's fine. Ezra kept eating. Ruth Ann sat with her eyes on the tabletop, her top teeth gently biting into her lower lip. You're not having lunch, Mum? Jacob asked. Not hungry. No one spoke. Then Decker said, I know it must be difficult to talk right now. Ezra spoke up. When can we bury our son? If nothing new comes up, I'm hoping in a few days. What could come up? Ezra asked. He killed himself. We don't know for certain, Mr. Wolf. The coroner makes the final ruling. Do you think he killed himself? If I had to guess, I'd say yes. Then there's nothing more to discuss. The man put down his fork and stared into space. Why you're here is a mystery to me. I wanted to come here personally and tell you how sorry I was. That's very kind of you, Ruth Ann said. We appreciate it. Anything you can tell me about Elijah would be helpful to our investigation. What investigation? Jacobs asked. If you think it's a suicide, what's there to investigate? There is something else, Decker said. We found some papers hidden behind one of the drawers in his desk. I guess I'm trying to figure out if the papers were significant to his death. Does it matter? Ezra said. My son is gone. Mr. Wolf, nothing I do will bring him back, and if you think there's nothing to talk about, I'll respect that. Since no one answered him, Decker turned quiet. He had to go along with the family's decision, even if he disagreed with it. Jacob broke the silence. There was rancor in his voice. Since he left for college, hasn't kept in touch. Decker nodded. That's the truth. Ezra said, We haven't seen Elijah in years. He looked at his wife. When was the last time he came down? 4 years ago for Easter. He was a good boy. Ezra picked up his fork and stabbed the salad. Not as much stamina as Jacob. The boy wasn't cut out for farm life, but he worked without complaint, and after he went to college, we didn't seem to matter anymore. He cared in his own way, Ruth Ann said. Oh, he'd send us money. Not that I ever asked. Ezra shook his head. Why would I need his money? Maybe giving us money was a way of keeping in touch. I don't know. Decker paused before he spoke. He sent you money? That's the truth, Ezra said. It was odd, Ruth Ann said. Very odd, Ezra confirmed. First couple of times we tried to return it, he just sent it back, so I stopped trying. I never touched it, but put it in the bank in case he wanted it later, but he never asked for it. Can I ask how much? Ezra turned his wife. What was it like, 1,000 a month or something for the last 2 years? A little more, maybe 1,200. That's a lot of spare cash. Jacob tried not to look surprised. Any explanation where it came from? I called him and asked him about it, Ruth Ann said. He said he had a job and he didn't need it. He decided to send it to us. What kind of a job? He was working beyond his scholarship requirements. His tuition, room, and board was paid for by the college. I think Ezra's right. It was a way of keeping in contact. Okay, Decker wrote it down. I know this may sound like I wasn't listening. I understand that you didn't keep in contact, but I'm asking it anyway. Did you have any idea what Elijah was working on in his maths? Ezra shook his head. Even when we still lived at home, I didn't know what he was doing. I can do calculating in my head. I never needed to write anything down, but what he was doing with the formulas and letters was way beyond my ken. You sound like you're good at numbers, Rena said. Did Elijah ever try to explain it to you? Ezra eyed Rena and then eyed Decker. I asked him once or twice. I was lost within a few minutes. Jacob said something with vectors and complex formulas and matrices. I couldn't tell you the specifics because I didn't understand them either. He tried to explain it to me once, but I couldn't follow him. I'm also good at numbers. When I went to community college, I always got A's. I'm thinking of becoming an accountant, actually. You'd make a fine accountant, Ruth Ann said. He makes a fine farmer too, Ezra said. The room went silent. Finally, Jacob said, Eli's mind was on another planet, and after a while we just didn't have much to talk about other than the weather. He was a good boy, Ezra said. I didn't say he wasn't. Jacob was snappish. Just that math totally consumed him. He had finished his lunch and put down his fork. Thank you, Mum. It was really good. I have cake if you want it. No, I'm fine. Save it for dinner. What about you, Ezra? If you're offering, I'll take a piece. Ruth Ann stood up. Can I get either of you some cake? No, thank you, Rena said. Jacob said, I'm fine, thank you. How about a refill of tea for both of you? Sure, Rena said. I'll come help you. No need. Ruth Ann's smile was fleeting. I'll be right back. No one spoke until Ruth Ann came back with a pound of cake and tea. It took a few minutes to serve and pour. She sat down and Ezra took a forkful of cake. It's good. Thank you. She turned to Jacob. You sure you don't want a piece? If you bring it out, you know I'm going to eat it. Ruth Ann smiled and served him a slice. Jacob said, It's delicious. Lemon. Yes, fresh lemons. At this time of year, guess California or Florida had some extra that wound up in the local barn market. The men ate in silence. Decker said, Jacob, were the two of you close growing up? We were brothers. We shared a room. I was a serious one. He was a griff. Decker sipped his tea. From what you've told me, it doesn't sound like there's anybody goofy about him. He changed radically after the accident. Jacob finished the cake in 4 bites and took another piece. He stopped being the class clown. Maybe he realized that life wasn't infinite. He got serious with his studies. His true genius came out. What accident? Decker asked. Car accident, as Ezra said. Jacob broke his leg. Jacob said, my injury is nothing compared. My friend who was driving was killed and Eli was in a coma for over a week. That's horrible, Decker said. It was a test from God, Ruth Ann said. We almost lost him. At one point, the doctors talked about brain surgery for the pressure, and he said, luckily it didn't come to that. Ezra said, after the accident, we did lose him in a sense. He stopped talking to us. That's not so, Ruth Ann said. He stopped talking to me, and that's the truth. Ezra looked at his son. Maybe he talked to you. Dad, he didn't really talk to me either. Jacob put down his fork, but I don't think it was anything personal. He just changed. Math became his life. Once he won that contest, he became totally devoted to his studies. Ezra wiped his mouth and stood up. We should get back. We're putting up a new coop. We need to do all the repairs in the wintertime when we're not farming. Makes total sense. Decker said, there seems to be enough hours in the day. There never seems to be enough hours in the day to get things done. Or enough daylight, Jacob added. Now that's the truth, Ezra said. You ready? Yep, Ruth Ann said. I'll wipe the mud off your boots. Thank you, Mum, Jacob said. Yes, thank you, Ezra stuck out his hand. Let me know when I can bury my son. I will, Mr. Wolf, shaking off hands. Once again, I'm terribly sorry for what happened. The man sighed. It was a terrible decision, what he did. I don't know what he was thinking, but no matter what the church says about him and his sins, he's still my son. He tipped his hat to Rena. Nice meeting you, ma'am. Likewise, Decker said. Jacob, what contest did Elijah win? Some statewide maths contest. He came in first, which is remarkable because it included New York City. He didn't even tell us about it. We found out after the fact. I was really mad. He should have told us, but that was impulsive. He didn't always think things out, obviously. He shouldn't have done it. Ezra's voice was soft. But he was still my son. I won't turn my back on him, even if the Reverend says we can't bury him in the cemetery. I already talked to Reverend Dutch, Dad. There won't be a problem. When did you do this? Yesterday after he called. I didn't want you to worry about it. That was very considerate of you, Jacob. Ruth Ann's eyes welled up with tears. Please excuse me. She got up and retreated to the kitchen. Ezra said, I'll be back in a moment. Digger thought that the old man was going to confront his wife, but Ezra went in the opposite direction, down a hallway. Rena stood up and stared, gathering dirty dishes. Jacob said, You're a guest. You don't have to do that. Rena said, I don't mind. She left Decker alone with Jacob. Decker turned to the boy. I'm so sorry. Jacob shrugged. He hadn't kept in contact for a while, but it doesn't lessen the hurt. I tried to keep up the relationship. I called her after Dad gave up. It was mostly one side. I told him he needed to keep in touch. I told him he needed to call the folks. He always said he would, but he never did. This might be a painful question, but do you think there was a reason why he chose to distance himself from the family? We weren't important to him anymore, just a bunch of farmers. What did we know? Decker nodded. I apologize for my intrusive question. I don't take offense. It's your job. I tried not taking offense with Eli, but sometimes it was hard. He was one of those guys who made promises he never kept. I don't think it was out of meanness. He just probably forgot. McAdams switched the phone to his other ear. He was talking to Iris Beaufort, who remembered him instantly. No surprise there, because he had spent half his time at Exeter in place other than classrooms and clubs. Not that he didn't have friends. He did. A few guys from his neighbourhood and even a girlfriend that he took to the prom. He was now a lawyer and working for the Miami PD office defending drug dealers. She had been one of his 40 Facebook friends before he shut down his account. Truth was, McAdams had always been more comfortable with people his parents' age. Iris said, according to the results, Marlon Euler was here for 2 years. It appears she left after her sophomore year. Any reason why she left the school? I have no idea, Tyler. I shouldn't even be divulging this information to you. I'm an official detective now, and official detectives have search warrants, only in the movies. Anything else I can help you with, darling? Is Dr. Kent still head of the math department? It would take an ambulance and a gurney to relieve him of his duties. Do you have a number for him? It's one thing for me to look in the computer files. It's another to give you his phone number, but I will tell him that you called. You're a doll, thank you. So you're still with the police? I heard you were in law school. From whom? My dad? Your sister? His half-sister. Ah, Danielle. She's 14 already? 16. McAdams let out a laugh. How's she doing? Give her a call and find out. Yes, Mother. Are you in law school? I'm in charge of updating your alumni list. Yes, I'm in law school. Where, darling? Harvard. And I'm sure that's way more impressive to your parents than my police work. Under her breath, she muttered, not to me. McAdams smiled, although Iris couldn't see it. Law school is a promise I made to my father and my late grandfather. Actually, I don't hate it. Obviously, I'm not entirely divorced from investigative work, hence the phone call. Why are you interested in Malone? I can't tell you. McAdams paused. Is she related to the famous Euler? Great-great-grandniece. It says on her application, and that's all I'm going to tell you since you're being stingy with your information. So she left the school at 15, and you have no idea where she went. Did you just hear what I said? How did she get on in school? I know she was bullied. How did you know that? She told me. A long pause. If you know the girl, why are you asking me these questions? I know the girl, but I trust you. Flattery will get you everywhere. Yes, she was bullied. In her first year, she was in the nurse's office all the time. Although her injuries weren't physical, her second year, I didn't see her as much. Perhaps she learned how to deal with the idiots. Perhaps the girls found someone else. You know, we do the best we can, but we can't control the miniature of behavior, and girls are always getting their feelings hurt, even if they're not bullied. It's always best for kids to figure out how to handle themselves, of course. If there is anything physical, we have to step in. And with Malone, there was nothing physical, nothing's noted in her records. As far as I can remember, there was nothing that required intervention. She's brilliant. Could she have gone into college early? I don't know. She never answered any of our questionnaires after she left. Could you ask around for me? I'll do what I can, which won't be much. I've got to go, darling. I'll tell Dr. Kent to call you. Thank you, Iris. You can thank me by dropping by on career day. Oh, please. The place must be overrun with parents and alumni who are lawyers. Lawyers, yes. Cops are another story. Surely you can tell us something interesting that will keep us awake for once. If you can fill in the blanks about Malone, I will be happy to talk to you about investigation work or what little I know about it. I'm sure you know plenty, enough to keep you entertained. I'll even bring a pipe and a deerstalker hat for ambience. We have a uniform no smoking policy. Even Sherlock would be forced to comply. Why would Sherlock Holmes be without his pipe? A bland do-gooder, just like the rest of them. But you know how it is in institutions, Tyler. Rules are effing rules. Thank you for listening.